An ammo section on eBay. Anyhow, that was almost 15 years ago now. I left the country the instant I was done with my federal probation, and I haven't lived in the U.S. since, and actually renounced my U.S. citizenship a couple of years ago. But while I was in federal prison, I got to see firsthand probably 85% of the people there were there for victimless crimes in which there was no victim. And the vast majority of those were there for buying, selling, or using drugs. And the other thing that was just so incredibly frustrating that I saw firsthand is the people that were there for these victimless crimes had way longer prison sentences than the people that were there for crimes with victims. So there was one guy there, for example, that had defrauded a whole bunch of people through identity theft for millions of dollars and just caused all sorts of headaches for all sorts of people. And he wound up with like a 22-month sentence, a little less than 2 years. Whereas my bunkmate had been arrested for shipping California from Hawaii to the mainland, and not just a little bit, we're talking about a lot of marijuana, but he wound up with a 14-year sentence for basically providing a service that people wanted and were willing to pay for. And it's just so insane that people are, we're getting 14 years in prison for providing a product and a service that people want and are willing to pay for. And you cause all sorts of damage by stealing or embezzling, millions of dollars. Oh, you get, 20-month sentence. It's just so incredibly frustrating. And that's why I'm so excited about Bitcoin, because I really think Bitcoin is going to be a tool to strip away the power from all these politicians and bureaucrats and people that want to enforce the war on drugs. And, I think everybody in this room is already familiar with the Silk Road and what that was. But there's already new websites. They're the exact same sort of thing, but what are really exciting about these new websites, they use what are called multi-signature Bitcoin addresses, where basically it's one Bitcoin address holds the Bitcoins, but it requires 3 different people. There's 3 different people that hold the keys to those Bitcoins, and it requires any 2 of them to sign off on the transaction to move the Bitcoins. So for example, hypothetically speaking, if I were a buyer or seller, and one of you guys in the audience is the other party there, and then the website will provide one key. So there's the website, the buyer, and the seller. If the transaction goes smoothly, the buyer and the seller just sign off on the transaction, and the seller receives the coins from the buyer, and the website never has to sign off or do anything whatsoever. And what's so exciting about this, which is so different than the Silk Road, is when the Silk Road was busted and they arrested Ross Ulbricht, they were managed to seize, somewhere close to $100 million worth of Bitcoins. These new websites that are using the multi-signature things, if the FBI or DEA or whoever goes and raids the website, they only have one of the keys that are required to spend the Bitcoins. But if the buyer and the seller are still out there in the world, their Bitcoins are perfectly safe. So it really takes away a lot of the motivation for the DEA to raid these websites, because even if they raid the website, they're not able to steal anybody's money. Everybody's money is still completely safe. So I think that's a really, really good thing. And I think in another decade or so, people look back on DEA agents the same way we look back on the police who enforced alcohol prohibition, or hopefully we'll look back on them as dirty, rotten criminals the same way we look at concentration camp guards today, because it really is just a destruction of the millions of people's lives around the world. And I've been there and saw it firsthand just how many people's lives are being destroyed. And it really is upsetting to me, and that's why I work every day to spread Bitcoin and the ideas of freedom as well. So it hasn't been super public yet also, but one other interesting thing is I'm pretty much in control of Bitcoin.com at this point, just as of very recently. And I have the entire news team there pretty much made up of voluntarists and anarcho-capitalists, and we're promoting Bitcoin from that whole point of view. We want to expose the gun in the room every chance we have when it comes to these government laws and regulations, and point out that when a government agent passes a law, they're not asking you to do something, they're telling you, and they're threatening you with violence if you don't comply. And I think more and more people are realizing that the law is just an opinion backed up at the point of a gun, and their opinion isn't necessarily more valid or any better than any of us in this room today. So anyhow, that's a little bit about who I am. I don't know, about a year ago or so, I was just feeling upset about the way the whole Silk Road trial was going. So I put out a tweet on my Twitter account saying that I'll donate $10 for every retweet to the FreeRoss fundraising campaign. And I was a little bit caught off guard by just how many retweets it got. It wound up getting, I think, 16 or 17,000 retweets. And luckily I was Luckily, I was in a position from having bought a whole bunch of Bitcoins back in 2011 where I was in a financial position where I made good on that. I donated, I wasn't expecting to donate $170,000, but I think it was right around $170,000 that I donated to the FreeRoss campaign. But unfortunately, we didn't have that. Thank you all. But unfortunately, didn't really have the exact outcome we wanted. But you know, there's still lots of other options there, and Bitcoin really is providing the tools to just absolutely fundamentally strip away the power of the state to control individuals' lives. And I think that's a great thing. And I think you guys share that enthusiasm.
Oh yeah.
So I'm happy to open it up to questions or any other particular topics that you guys want to talk about. Or you know, I'm here to generate additional enthusiasm for individual liberty and the ways in which Bitcoin empower that.
I've already got the microphone in my hand, so I'm going to go first. It's Nima from Anarchapulco. I met you there. Remember, Roger?
I look forward to meeting you again next year. I'm gladly going to attend Anarchapulco again next year.
Sweet.
Anybody who didn't make it last year, definitely go. It was an amazing, amazing event and a wonderful time, and I hope it'll be even bigger next year.
I know where you can get 2 tickets.
I'm actually going to do part of my Anarchapulco set here tonight in just a little bit. But I had a question for you about when you first saw or heard about Ross's sentence. What was your initial visceral reaction? Like, my jaw just dropped. I kind of want to hear your take on it from when you first heard.
Disappointed, I guess, if I had to sum it up in one word. But you know, these are they think it's okay to give someone, you know, life in prison for building a website are the same type of people that round up Jews by the millions and execute them and do the same thing in all these different countries. And these are people that have no respect for other human beings. It's so incredibly clear. If you stop and think for a minute, each of us own our own bodies. And if we own our own bodies, we have the absolute right to put whatever we want in it, whether it's, you know, greasy hamburgers, marijuana, crack cocaine, or if we want to drink bleach, this body belongs to me and I'll put whatever I want into it. And anybody else, and anybody who's opposed to that isn't thinking things through clearly and are a danger to their fellow man. People, judges, law enforcement agents, and prosecutors that think it's okay to lock people in prison for victimless crimes, those are the dangerous psychopaths in society. And those are the people that need to be stopped.
All right, who's next?
Hey, Roger. So you're living in Panama right now, right? Is that correct?
No.
Actually, I've been living in Japan for about 10 years now, and at the moment I'm taking a summer vacation with some other Bitcoin friends of mine. I'm actually in Vietnam at the moment.
Oh, okay, sweet. That's pretty fun. I was going to ask you, you said that your, I guess, 10-month tour of the federal penitentiary really kind of gave you some insight onto how horrible our justice system is, and I guess that ultimately led to you wanting to leave the United States and renounce your citizenship. How has it worked out for you? Like, have you regretted your decision at all, or are there been any difficulties that you would recommend against doing something like that?
And first and foremost, I guess, it's no surprise to people in this room, I don't believe in the concept of citizenship. In my ideal world, there would be no such thing. We're all individuals and have an equal right to live on this planet. But my only regret in regards to that, actually, is that I didn't do it sooner. I wish I did it 10 years ago. And my life today would be a lot better if I had done it 10 years ago. I haven't really had any problems at all, with the only exception of being the United States government has denied my visa application to be able to visit the U.S. I haven't lived in the U.S. for almost a decade now. I'm just a few months shy of a decade of not having lived in the U.S. I've been incredibly outspoken and open about my view of the U.S. government and governments in general. And when I applied for a visa to be able to go and visit the U.S. for a Bitcoin conference a year or so ago, the agents at the U.S. Embassy literally refused to allow me to slide my paperwork through the slot in the window for them to review, and then claimed that they didn't see any of the paperwork because they physically disallowed me from sliding through the window for them, and denied my visa on the grounds that I hadn't proved sufficient ties outside of the U.S. to motivate me to leave at the end of my trip, which is basically insinuating that my secret intent is to live in the U.S. as an illegal immigrant. I have no intent of doing that.
Right, so you renounce your citizenship so you can go be a non-citizen here and be treated even worse. Yeah, that makes sense. Another question to follow that up. I mean, I'm someone that's traveled around and I've seen other countries, and I've seen how much more free, just by the lack of totalitarian enforcement of the laws, that you can be in other countries, like in Vietnam or South America or anywhere around. On that note, what do you think the possibilities of new nations like seasteads or freesteads or any of those type of concepts emerging or being brought about? What kind of possibilities do you think are there for people that don't want to, be in the United States, but want to surround themselves with liberty-minded people and other people that believe that, like you said, own their own bodies?
Yeah, I of course I support those projects, and I'm hopeful for them. Liberland looks pretty exciting, and seasteading and all these things, but at the end of the day, there's this violent gang of thugs with guns, wearing costumes with flags out in front of their buildings, that are willing to use violence on the rest of us to make sure that we are forced to stay in part of their social club or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, we need to build the tools where we strip away the power from those people so they no longer have the ability to do those sorts of things. And I really see Bitcoin and distributed networks as a really incredibly powerful tool to strip away their power. And that's what I've been spending all my time on the last couple of years.
Hell yeah. Thank you for that, by the way. We all appreciate it. And I'm sure the future of humanity will as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, too.
All right. Anybody else? All right.